The red smoke rises, and we finally get to talk about a St. Louis City win in the Yoann Damet era. We explore what went right against the Revs and maybe some things that could still be improved upon as we have hit our first bye week of the season. We'll take a deep dive into City's first 5 games and what we know about this club going forward, plus a mixed bag Sunday as City 2 had some big names getting some reps, but it didn't result in the big kaboom that we thought it would. I am the Drogba of Dogtown, Tom Franklin, joined as always by the Ronaldo of Bethalto, Jeremy Clements. And Jeremy, what are you wearing?
Rocking out some new merch from one of our fellow content creator friends. The good old City Refs kit from Olive and York just came in the mail, so had to break it out for tonight's show.
Love to see it. Love to see it. Olive and York, maker of fine soccer jerseys, including the Soccer Zombie jersey. But yes, great stuff there from Olive and York. We'll be talking about some refs during a City 2 game later on in the show. And we have a special guest with us tonight. Jake Henry, unfortunately, unable to be on the show tonight. But coming in from the backstage area with a chair in his hand, like Stone Cold Steve Austin, it is Cole Sutton from Inside City Limits. Cole, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
Good, gentlemen. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you on here as well. Another fellow St. Louis City content creator joining us tonight. And we want to thank as well Chris Gebhardt, the dog leash of the Metro East, monitoring things behind the scenes and keeping an eye out on chat. Cole, I forgot to ask you where you're from, so I didn't give you a fancy soccer name, unfortunately, but we'll work on that the next time that you are on, I promise.
Cole,
I was just going to...
Go ahead.
Sorry, Jerry. I was just going to ask how one acquires a fancy nickname like that, so we'll work on that.
I have to remember to do it. That's a very intricate process that we have in developing these weird names. Trust me, Jeremy would not have called himself the Ronaldo of Bethalto if I hadn't said that first. So
no, I wouldn't have. I don't have that skill. But Cole, I was going to ask because he comp referenced Stone Cold. I was going to say, are you a wrestling guy at all?
Big time. I was a big wrestling fan growing up. I did have a little gap in my fandom. When I was younger, about daycare age, I actually got in trouble for trying to pull some moves on one of my counselors. So there was a little... Exactly, yeah. Or I'd done it at school. You know, there was a little gap where I wasn't watching wrestling. But, yeah, I'm a big wrestling guy now also.
We'll have to come back to it during the final third. I'm going to have to ask you if you're Stone Cold, what Cole Sutton 316 says. We'll have to come back to that later, though.
Okay.
I love that. I love that. By the way, the final third is a feature of our live YouTube streams and also on demand at STL Soccer News YouTube. We're live every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. Well, most Tuesdays anyway. We'll explain in just a little bit why we'll be taking a little bit of a break next week. We are also available on all podcast platforms as well. And just want to give a quick thank you to not just you, the audience, for tuning in, but also to our partners at Pat Connolly Tavern, located in beautiful Dogtown. And right now, that doesn't look very beautiful, but pardon their progress, their outdoor patio is being built as we speak. And that outdoor patio will be ready to go by the World Cup. But in the meantime, you can stop into their 1942 established bar located at the corner of Oakland and Tam. Whenever you're in Forest Park or in the zoo, it's a great place to grab a bite to eat or a cold drink. It's also a City on Tap bar as well. So there are Michelob Ultra specials for every St. Louis City home and away game. And speaking of away games, that is the home of Soccer Zombie watch parties throughout the season. So check them out. Pat Connolly Tavern, located at the corner of Oakland and Tam in beautiful Dogtown, a St. Louis institution since 1942 and a proud partner of the Red Smoke Rising podcast. All right, so it is time to get down to business, and it is time to answer the question that you all have been dying for us to ask. Before we get to our recap of our jubilant and joyous Saturday of soccer, it is time for the latest edition of Did Joao Klaus Score This Week? Jeremy, did Klaus score this week?
Yes, twice.
Oh boy, that sounds amazing, actually. And Cole, did he score for St. Louis City?
No.
Well, Klaus is certainly soaring to new heights, and we're not talking about the top of the Gateway Arch because he doesn't play soccer here anymore, for what I'm sure are very valid reasons. Make sure to tune in on April 7th to see if the streak continues. And yes, we are taking a little bit of a bye week ourselves next Tuesday, with City not in action this coming weekend and not back in action until April 4th as we make our first trip to New York City.
New York City?
Yes, New York City. This is not a 90s era salsa commercial we're talking about here. This is a soccer game against NYCFC. I'll be there attending at Citi Field, and I'm so excited to experience an away day in New York City. Finally, I think there's going to be a few of us City fans going to that one. And I'll share my thoughts on the game and the venue on the April 7th edition of Red Smoke Rising, where we will be joined by Steve Rusnak of the City SC Report. Speaking of Steve, we are also going to be working on a project with another City content creator that you may know during the World Cup breaks. So stay tuned for more details on that. But as for the next week, Jeremy, you're planning on some fun shorts content to kind of get us through.
Yeah, gonna try to break out the old journalism hat and do what they call the rap in the radio days, right? And throw my hat in the ring and try to boost some content that way. But we won't be quiet, but it won't be a normal week, that's for sure.
Definitely not. And of course, City 2, they play at Swope Park Rangers. Oh, I meant Sporting KC 2, living in the past there. So I'll do a shorts recap of that as well. And by the way, just a quick cheap plug, the fact that Sporting KC 2 is no longer the Swope Park Rangers thusly confirms that Forest Park Rangers are the best Rangers in the state of Missouri. Shameless plug, by the way. Speaking of plugs, for the final third topic of this week, in addition to talking a little bit of wrestling after the after the podcast portion is done, rather, on YouTube, we want to know what you'll be doing with your time now that St. Louis City is off next weekend, because we've all kind of gotten into the soccer habit again. We've played 5 games, and we don't play soccer next weekend, except for City 2 on the road. But here's the catch. We want wrong answers only. So what are we going to be doing next Saturday? And we want your wrong answers for the final third coming up on YouTube after we take care of some podcast business first. Don't drop them in the chat right now, guys. I see you guys are kind of active right now, but we'll talk about those at the end of the show in the final third. So, soccer is fun. And you know what else is fun? Winning. And not in the Charlie Sheen way, actually like winning on the soccer pitch. So for the first time since August 2025, we can say St. Louis City SC has won a match at home. City defeating New England Revs 3-1. And Jeremy, I want to toss it to you right away here, because we saw a big return in the lineup, and a big return for one of, if not maybe the most popular St. Louis City player on the roster right now, Celio Pompeu, getting the start as one of our 2 attacking 10s. And Jeremy, were you surprised to see Celio in the 11?
It was not at the top of my list, especially as a 10. I thought, based on everything we'd seen so far, he was going to be a wingback, and it would be, another substitute appearance. I think we tossed out almost every other name except him when we talked about it last week. So I was surprised. Cole, what'd you think?
It was definitely a surprise to me as well. I know that a lot of the fans are wanting to see Celio get some more extended minutes. The position was interesting. I'm sure we'll get into his relationship with Vollum on that right wing and how they kind of intertwined. But it was interesting to see. I wasn't mad at it, but it definitely wasn't the first name I would have thrown out there, I guess.
Well, I think it's an answer to the question that a lot of people have been having, and that is, will Yoann Damet vary things up early on? Because one of the things that he has talked about, Jeremy, is the fact that he wants consistency in this lineup. He wants consistency in our shape and our formation. It really seems to be, it kind of goes back to that Corey Ray line of alignment, which is now 8:14, by the way. Take your drink. That's your alignment reference for the show. But I want to talk about Celio. Because, Jeremy, we were watching him from the north end. And, Cole, you kind of brought up the interplay that he had with Conrad Vollum. And I noticed that Celio definitely seeing signs of Damet ball here, because in possession, Celio played wide. I mean, almost across the Mississippi River wide, attacking towards the north end, basically hugging that sideline, as we would build up our attack. And then Vollum would kind of go inside. But then out of possession, Jeremy, they would kind of flip, where it would be Celio going into that middle 10 role and then Vollum going back out wide to play as a defender. What did you think of that look?
I mean, it made sense. It, I think, brought, and we'll get into this a little bit later, because we've got a graphic that will really show you the verticality of where we were seeing the ball moved through these two on the right-hand side. But it made sense. It allowed Conrad Vollum to have a lot of freedom when we had the ball. Allowed him to, in some ways, maybe occasionally stay a little bit more responsible with his offensive positioning. I don't feel like he got caught out, even though he got beat a few times in the game. But I don't feel like he got caught out a lot. But it definitely added, to me, another dynamic to the city attack, as you've called out.
Yeah, absolutely. Very wide open game from the start. Both teams trying to get on the front foot from the outset. Almost, though, became another nightmare for City. And Jeremy, again, we've watched this play out before, where you get hope going into the game, and then it feels like the other team's going to break your heart right away. New England missing a sitter, and in the 10th minute, Feingold couldn't quite get his foot on a goal on a front cross from Carlos Gil. But not long after that, Jeremy, Luca Langoni beats Conrad Vollum on the dribble. He carries it to the end line before cutting across back into the box. And you thought that, you say that Rafa Santos, you feel he was ball watching a little bit as Feingold knocked it home to make it 1-0. Tell me what you saw in that play.
And again, I won't say it's necessarily a fully original thought. I watched the replay, and then I watched Chris's great breakdown from STL Soccer News. He does really, really great video analysis work. But you could see it. He's a little flat-footed. He doesn't really quite know where Langoni is, and by the time his head comes around, Langoni's beaten him to that cross, which, if he was paying enough attention and not just ball watching and fully engaged, he could have had that beat out, and then we're not talking about a 1-0 lead 14 minutes in for New England. Cole, what did you see on that play?
I think that I saw something very similar, because when I go to the games, if I'm up in the press box, I'll write some notes just for pods, or honestly just to go look back at games. And my exact quote was, "It looked like Santos may not have expected the ball to travel all the way to the far post. It kind of got caught ball watching." So I used literally the same exact phrasing in the moment, just kind of flat-footed, like you said.
Yeah, I watched this play a couple of times myself before coming on here. So, for one, first of all, it's a really nicely timed through ball, because he makes his run perfectly, basically. Vollum played him onside just a little bit. It wasn't egregious or anything, but the rest of the line had kind of moved up a little bit to try to play the offside trap a little bit, and that included Orozco. And so when the Revs player is moving, blowing by everyone, Orozco's not there to really provide, any cover after Vollum is basically getting torched on this play. Again, it's not really Vollum's fault. It's just, it was a well-timed play. What I don't understand, Jeremy, and I've watched this replay about 6 times, how does that ball get through?
Tom, that was exactly going to be my next question to you, because it got through Baumgartel and Paul Vara at the near post. It's like, in baseball they call him a seeing eye single. This was a seeing eye pullback cross that somehow found his way to the middle of the box, and a smart attacker who caught a flat-footed defender, and it's 1-0. And it's one of those frustrating moments, because it's so early in the game. You're at home. It comes on the heels of what was a very powerful, and I don't want to tangent too much into it, but I think it does bear worth mentioning, that powerful moment in the 10th minute, the moment of silence, the gray out that overtook the stadium, that minute of silence. It was deafening. It was powerful. I was in the Capo stand for the first half, so it was eerie, and but it was powerful, and so I don't know if I don't want to say that took the team out of it for a minute, but it definitely, just 4 minutes later we're behind 1-0, and 8 minutes later, Tom, they almost double the lead as Dor Turgeman has a shot that he pulls just wide of the far post in the 18th minute. So it literally was almost a nightmare start, and I don't know, Cole, Tom, whoever wants to jump at this first. You're talking about 3 prime chances for the visitors to go up and extend that lead. They could have been up 3-0 inside of 20 minutes. What went wrong for City in the first 20?
I was that Turkman chance really felt like the one that I was like, whew, I even wrote it at the time. They were lucky it wasn't 2-0. And I remember I tried to go back and watch, and you see Baumgartel kind of get turned around or spun around. I don't necessarily remember in the moment thinking, "Oh my gosh, he's just blown it defensively." It felt like a nice, clean piece of attacking play, and I think it was luck that they weren't dumped 2-0 up, because then at that point, I think the outcome of stealing a point or maybe even taking all three is kind of out the window.
Yeah, and on that shot by Turgeman, it was basically just watching the replay. Polvaros kind of caught up a little bit because he wanted to defend the through ball, but he didn't really apply enough pressure to really make a difference on that. So he wasn't there to cover. And then, so you basically have a 1v1 situation with Turgeman and Timo, where Timo, he does a lot of things well, but he's not the most agile of footed, Jeremy. And this was very apparent at the game and then very apparent on the replay as well. He got kind of turned around a little bit. And I'm getting a little worried here. And just kind of in your opinion, like what do you think was lacking in that first 25 minutes?
So I think it comes down to some of the things we heard Yoann Damet talk about post-game: spacing in the midfield, where we had midfielders we had too much space between the midfield and the back line. We didn't have support. We had guys not pressing as units. We had individual errors, and when you get one guy moving without the rest of the team behind you, you get exactly what you have in this case. You get a stepping up Polvara. He gets beat easily. And then as far as Timo goes, the frustrating thing for me, and again, I could be misreading this, and so I probably need to go watch the replay again, but if I'm not mistaken, it looked as if Timo had back post coverage or another defender behind him, so I don't know why he freed up that space and turned his hips to allow Turgeman to get back to his outside foot and pull it. I mean, we're fortunate, but it just looked like he misread it and misread where his backup coverage was, because to me, he should have been where the shot came from, because he had another defender behind him. At least that's what my mind is telling me. I haven't watched the replay today, but that's what I seem to recall.
No, that's pretty accurate, and thankfully Turgeman just he pulled his shot a little bit too much and it went errant. But if that was a wake-up call that City need, well, they got it, because first City chance coming in the 23rd minute, Conrad Vollum putting a shot over goal. So it was Santos putting a shot on goal, and I like this shot from Santos because it created a big rebound opportunity. You see this a lot in hockey, where sometimes you just put the puck on net and you create a rebound opportunity, and this was kind of a hockey shot where Turner's forced to make a stop. He goes prone, and so you have Vollum coming in. And basically, Turner, parries it perfectly for Vollum. Actually, I want to say perfectly, because Vollum was a little bit on a volley here, and Vollum got a little bit underneath, and he skied the rebound. But it was encouraging to see. And then kind of from there, St. Louis grew into the game a little bit as time went on. And in the 29th minute, Jeremy, they got the equalizer from Simon Betcher. But this was all, I want to say all Daniel Edelman, but this doesn't happen without Daniel Edelman pressing and finding Betcher in the box.
Well, and it's, Tom, it's the thing that when we talked to some Red Bull fans when the Edelman trade broke, and the one thing we heard from them was that Edelman can't move the ball. He's oftentimes misplacing that ball in those crucial moments. No such mistake here. He makes the interception, the steal, makes the quick pass to Betcher, and then you guys, you got to give Betcher kudos. Like, for a guy who has struggled, who we probably think had zero confidence at this point, to make the cutback move, find the channel, and then put it high. I think the expected goals on target for that shot was like 0.6 or something like that, or 0.4 at least. It was a very well taken shot by Betcher in a close area. I mean, kudos all the way around on that. Cole, what do you think on that play? What did you see?
I was really impressed, especially like you said, someone who's dealt with the scoring struggles. And I think as much as players try to say or act like, those that you're not hearing the pressure from the fans, or you're not feeling that anxiety around it, I feel like after a while you have to. And it was really good to see him. You could tell when he was going to that corner flag and celebrating that he was really fired up. I think he needed that one. And it was well deserved. I mean, he brings a lot of energy and a lot of, grit to that attack. It's just the clinical finishing in the final third, and we finally saw some, and it was pretty great, honestly.
It was great, and it was a great move by Betcher when he got the ball in the box. I mean, again, I'm making a lot of different sports references here tonight, but he made almost like a basketball, like behind the back crossover to, beat his man. Like, it's a very sneakily slick play by Betcher, which I didn't realize he had that in his locker. Today I learned, or Saturday I learned. But he had some techers out there before he just, hammered it home and didn't sky it, didn't kick it at Turner's ankles. I mean, it was just a good goal that he quite frankly needed. But I want to get back to Edelman, and I'll ask you guys both. 5 games in, Jeremy, you kind of talked about what Red Bull fans talked about Edelman, but like Cole, like your thoughts on Edelman's impact so far and his ability to move the ball so far. I mean, he was named to the 11 match day of the week on the bench. So what have your thoughts been on Edelman so far, Cole?
I've been really surprised. I'm not gonna act like I knew a lot about his player profile until he got traded here, and I studied up a little bit. But again, like Jeremy said, when you guys were talking to those Red Bull fans, you kind of sensed it was more of the physical defending, not necessarily someone you would think would be making that play on that Petra assist. And I've been really surprised. We've kind of talked on ICL about when we have a replacement in that central midfield with Leuven coming back. Like I think it's a tough decision between Durkin, who I'm sure we'll get to, and then Edelman. I mean, they've both played outstanding in my opinion.
Yeah, and that has been a very surprisingly well done middle pivot, because when we think of Edu Leuven's situation and how long he's going to be out, like obviously the idea is you want him in the lineup to be that talisman in the middle, and when he's not there, your best options are Durkin and Edelman, who are not exactly known for their ball movement, ball progression, really being any more than grunts, in the midfield. Edelman's kind of proving that he's a little bit more than that, and Durkin's kind of proving a little bit more as well. And speaking of Durkin, so basically after that goal, both teams kind of trading possession, not really creating any clear chances. And Jeremy, I'm going to let you take this one because I walked away to beat the rush at halftime for the concourse. So why don't you tell us what happened here, Jeremy, since I wasn't there?
Well, I was on the capo stand, so I'll tell you what I saw on the replay, Tom. That's the best I can do for you.
That's better than me.
In the name of transparency. So no, we had some nice build up. The ball gets low to Conrad or to Celio Pompeo, who does what we've been talking about. It's kind of almost a mirror image situation where you of the first goal from Langoni. The difference this time is Celio's cross back gets deflected behind for a corner kick. Rafa Santos takes the corner. And somehow, and I don't know how, the defenders just lost both Chris Durkin and Haziel Orozco on the back post. So if Durkin wouldn't have gotten this, as long as they didn't put it over or out, it would have gone to Orozco, and I think Orozco would have finished it. They were both standing unmarked inside the 6. Durkin said post-game that he was caught between two minds, between heading it and shooting it, so it looked funny. But what didn't look funny was the goal and the fantastic penguin slide right in front of the north end goal. Was a crazy moment for City to go ahead for the first time in weeks. In fact, that might be the first lead all season because they were behind against Charlotte, if I remember correctly.
They were.
Yep.
So it's the first lead of the season at home.
And it just I kind of mentioned it with Betcher specifically, but it just felt like such a weight off your shoulders. I mean, especially that first one, just to see it go into the back of the net, but to go into the break with the stoppage time, you're going up a goal, you bring all that momentum into the dressing room. I mean, it just kind of, I feel like as fans we're all pretty hopeless, optimistic. We're hoping they're going to pull it out, but that was the first time in a while it was like, man, if they can keep this energy in the second half and stick to what they're doing, I mean, they can cruise to their first victory of the year, and it was a good feeling.
Yeah, and really, Durkin being there at the right place at the right time. Although a lot of credit needs to be given to Santos for his delivery on
incredible.
that corner. It was an incredible. I watched it about a dozen times because it was that beautiful. It arcs over the Revs defense perfectly, and it lands like in like the absolute 99th percentile optimal spot for Durkin to just really just tap it in at that point. Revs defense not really well set up there either, because there was like 8 Revs bodies like in the front half of the goal, but like only one on the back, which kind of let Durkin do that. But it's a fantastic feeling. I agree with you guys in the chat. Leading going into half 2-1. And Jeremy, we kind of talked about this going into the second half, how we have a 1-goal lead and we're not playing the most aggressively coming out of it. It feels like almost like not quite parking the bus, Jeremy, but you had some concerns about that.
Yeah, I did. I need to correct myself. We did have the lead against Charlotte. We led for 13 minutes in that match.
That's
Hartel scored the opener. So, I even had that in my notes. I don't know why I didn't read my own notes. But in any event, that's fine. So, to me, though, yeah, I wanted to come out of the half, and I wanted to go guns a-blazing. I figure at this point, we've heard Damet talk ad nauseum about wanting Energizer Park to be a fortress. You want to take advantage of the home crowd. You scored right before the break, so you think the first 5 coming out are going to be crucial. And to me, I want to go for the kill shot. Like, I'm not saying go balls to the wall, full out attack, and don't play defense. I'm not saying lose responsibility and lose shape. I'm saying let's go for it, and let's go get the 3rd goal. But it felt like for at least the first 15 to 20 minutes, guys, it felt like that second half, we were sort of playing not to lose. And maybe, guys, let me ask it this way. Were we playing in a way that is to learn how to play with a lead, since we really haven't done it this season?
Tom, I'm actually interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, again, so much has been made by Yoann Damet about structure and, positioning and just, staying consistent. And also, look, this is a team that is not used to playing, possession-based soccer, that is not used to playing in this formation. I mean, they've had to do this against some very hard opponents, in the first few weeks. So, I mean, you have to remember that this is still a learning experience, for the players out there learning this system. And so, to Jeremy's point, there could be some credence into that as well. And I'm not talking about Clearwater Revival there either. I'm just talking about how Damet wants this team to adapt and learn to his system. And in theory, we have a system where we should be able to shut down a team like the Revs or really any other MLS team and really kind of throw a blanket on this game. But Cole, my jitters, and I think Jeremy shares these as well, is that it's so often, and again, it's a question of personnel, not to, and quality, not to steal a line from Olaf from last year, but we've seen this too many times, Cole, in the last year, where we get a lead and we really park the bus and we blow the lead. And that's, I think, what I was worried about, and maybe what Jeremy was worried about. Were you worried about that?
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a beauty in the eye of the beholder thing. If they turn it on and they find the back of the net and they grab a goal, you're like, man, that was incredible. That was the right call. It's almost like pulling the goalie. We're doing other sport references. If you pull the goalie too early in hockey or too late, if they do go and get on the front foot and then give up a counter and a goal, and then all of a sudden, you're just fighting for a point. I mean, I think that feels a little different. So I don't know. I agree with Jeremy most of the time that I'd rather see them go for it than kind of sit back. I mean, we talked about our Premier League teams before we started. I was a big Ange Postecoglou fan at Spurs. He was very attacking heavy, so I kind of leaned to Jeremy on that one.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. But thankfully, didn't hurt us. Revs, honestly, didn't really do a whole heck of a lot in the second half. I mean, Berkey got tested a couple of times, nothing major. Celio checks out in the 73rd minute for Sergio Cordova. Cordova playing in that winger 10 role, kind of an interesting fit. But I want to touch on Celio again just really quick, before he goes out. And Jeremy, we were kind of talking about this, before the show. I liked what Celio brought on Saturday. I know a lot of the more experts of the community kind of dog Celio a little bit for some of his deficiencies and how he tends to slow down attacks. But I thought, Jeremy, he brought a different dimension. And you're for the benefit of on YouTube, you kind of can kind of quantify the impact that Pompeu had.
Yeah, so using data from American Soccer Analysis and Playback 90, we were able to put a graphic together that shows, for me, what is the biggest impact from Celio. You could see verticality, and I know it's on both sides, but if you look on our graphic, I believe he's the yellow here. The yellow circles on the left of the screen are the reception points where Celio received the ball. How many of those are in or below the 18? Because last weekend we talked about how frustrated we were about not getting below that 18-yard box. We did it this time. We got to the end line. You even see Conrad Vollum in the red in that same situation. So it just creates so much space. And then, Tom, to the point, the data that also backs it up is where was he in terms of final third passes? He was second in the match with 21 for St. Louis City. And in terms of progressive carry leaders, he had the most progressive carries at 7. So he was, as Damet highlighted after the game, not afraid of those 1v1 moments. The problem that still comes, and I think people are still going to look at, is for as involved as he is, and Tom or Cole, whoever wants to take this, we just still don't see the end product that we need.
No, and but I will say I liked his service into the box generally. It looked like he was putting the ball into dangerous spots and effective spots, and so I really liked his ability to get the ball into the box, and also how we were connecting with him, because a lot of times he did lead in progressive carries with 7, but like a lot of times it would just be him receiving a pass and then one touching it into the box. If you're talking about him, sometimes with his 1v1 skills slowing the play down, this was a way to kind of keep things moving, was just to have him kind of one touch it into the box and kind of create those chances. So definitely want to see more of that. And speaking of verticality, guys, Marcel Hartel, ladies and gentlemen, goal of the season contender, candidate for maybe best city goal of all time. There's one Klaus goal that he hit on a volley that I think you could put in there, and I think Joe Aquini had a worldie in the first season as well. I'm saying it's Hartel. So let me take you back. So this came out of nothing. It really was nothing. It was the Revs had possession. They were working along the back line. Ceballos has one of the worst passes I've ever seen in my life, and I watched this back a few times. I don't know what on earth he was looking at, or why he didn't see Marcel Hartel right in front of him. His outlet wasn't even open. He was being defended pretty closely by Durkin. Regardless, questionable decision. Hartel, playing on Heisman difficulty, for those of you that play college football 26, has to settle this hot potato. And while the ball's in midair, and while he's falling on his ass, he is able to kick the ball in midair and put it on such a trajectory to beat Matt Turner, who is valiantly running back to his goal. And gosh darn it, he almost makes it. But it is again, if Marcel Hartel is flat-footed and he's practicing, he's on the training pitch and he's practicing this very shot, I don't know if he gets it as perfect as this shot here. Again, MLS goal of the season contender, shocked everyone in the crowd. Jeremy, I think you had a religious epiphany when that ball went in, along with everyone in the north end.
If that's not salvation from goal scoring woes, I don't know what is, Tom. That's exactly right. No, I thought it was interesting after the game when he was asked. Hartel told the media that he miscontrolled his first touch, and to do what he did, he was going to have to hit the second touch perfect, and that is basically what he did. All I can say about it, guys, is que golazo de Hartel. What are we doing? Beautiful. What a goal.
I mean, it was my mind immediately went to, is it the greatest goal we've seen at this club in the club's history? And I thought of was it the Leuven free kick against Vancouver? I know that might not have technically been a shot, but that was one that I thought Mike actually from
Yep, your
ICL. I
co-host
see him
got
in the
it.
comments. He's already on it. And I have to give Mike a shout out also. He was, even before the game, he said, we just need to score one and then the floodgates will open. So we're talking about salvation. I mean, he was on it. That goal is, I mean, like Tom said, you couldn't do that again if you tried. I don't think I even realized in the moment that he had to settle and then volley from midair until I saw the replay. I was just stunned that it found the back of the net, and then seeing that on the replay, I was even more stunned, if that's possible.
So, guys, from there, I mean, I know the rest of the game played out. We go on to win 3-1. That was the stunning finisher of the night. But I guess to kind of put a little bit of a bow on it, the one question I have from you guys is, I'm thrilled we scored 3. One of the goals came from a high turnover. The second one is a wonder goal. The third one is a bad marking play on a corner. I don't want to be the Debbie Downer of the night because we're celebrating a win, but I want to be the realist and say, do we still have a goal scoring problem? Because it's a set piece. It's a I don't want to say an accident, but it's an error, and and the other one is a high turnover. Like, I don't know. Do we have a problem?
I mean, I honestly, I don't think so, because again, if you look at the past few games and you look at, some of the stats, like we should have maybe have gotten more points going into this game than we had. I look at this game and I look at the City 2 game that we'll talk about a little later on as that's soccer. Because City 2 should have absolutely cleaned LAFC 2's clock on Sunday. And according to the analytics, they should have, but they didn't. It was only 2-2. They won on PKs. And it was only went to PKs because of a 95th minute tying goal. That's soccer. That happens. St. Louis ends up winning 3-1 over a Revs team that played us a little bit more evenly than we thought. So, guys, I'm not taking this as a Debbie Downer at this point. Do you think these things just happen in soccer? And Cole, I mean, are you being a pessimist about this as others are, or are you kind of with me in that, like, hey, just take the wins as they come?
I'm if anyone is listening, has listened to our podcast, I am usually the Debbie Downer and the pessimist. But I don't know why, but this might sound delusional, but I think it felt a little different. I think that this could be the start of maybe stringing something together. I don't know. At least it would probably shut me up for at least a couple more games, if we have some struggles here and there. But yeah, like they're saying in the chat, like Mike said, actually, we pounced on the opportunities we were given and we converted, and that's more than we've done, in the last couple weeks. So got to take it when you can.
And I think some of that comes through in what we heard from Yoann Damet after the game when he told the media, quote, "Today, I'm going to be honest, it's probably our worst performance of the season. If you look at the game, and then you could argue, like, with this win, like, where do we stand with the performance?" End quote. He then also went on to say, overall performance is, I would say, average. But at the same time, the mindset we showed, the energy we brought all the way to the end, and the work that we put, I thought the energy was good. And again, it's credit to them, and they deserved the win tonight. So, guys, I'll leave it with this. Good teams cash in on other teams' mistakes. We just did that, Tom.
And this is the kind of the beauty that we see in this system. You see the system working. You've seen it at times work up until Saturday, and we finally get to reap the fruits of our labors, basically, in that, yes, we may not have the best players right now to play the system, but the system is working. I mean, it literally created that first goal with Edelman being in the position that he needed to be in to make that challenge, to turn the ball over and feed it up to Betcher. We saw that happen in the preseason. In Coachella, a very similar goal. I think it was Edelman to Betcher on that one as well. I bet you it won't be the last in this system. So, and I think that kind of leads us, Jeremy, nicely into our deep dive through the first 5 games. And Jeremy, take us through how we stack up against the MLS.
Yeah, so what you're seeing if you're watching our YouTube, these are offensively where we stack up in terms of the MLS average. So with goals right now, we have 4. We're slightly below average. The MLS average is 7. Expected goals for us 7.8 or 7.58 compared to the league average of 7.5. So we're about there. The goals minus expected goals is where you really start to see the issue. It's a minus 3.58, which is a whole 3.5 goals almost below or worse than the league average. And if we had those goals, we'd be right at the league average for scoring. So that's where we stand in terms of putting the ball in the net. We also looked at expected points. Our expected points right now is 9.21, which would be almost a full 2 points above the MLS average. We have about 9 shots more than the average team at 69. The average is 60. Shots on goal, 4 more per game at 28 compared to 24. And then field tilt, because that's a fun one we always like to talk about. How much of the ball are you controlling in the offensive third compared to your opponent? We're slightly above average there at 55.5% or just under compared to about 50%. So that's where we stand in terms of the offensive numbers, guys. Is there anything that jumps out to you specifically?
I mean, for me, it is the fact that I think these numbers kind of show that we are not that far off. And again, we just played Seattle. We just played LAFC. We just played San Diego. Probably 3 of the toughest opponents we'll have this year. And if you look at the numbers on YouTube right now that are on your screen right now, we are absolutely, except for the goals minus, on par or better than the MLS average right now, which indicates to me that this is a team that is good enough to make a playoff run this year. I feel very confident in that. The number, to me, the goals minus really jumps out at me, Cole, because it kind of goes to show you how unlucky that we have been so far. But it just, again, it doesn't, to me, we're not that far off, Cole.
Yeah, and I think I've been kind of the mindset that getting so close in these chances or seeing them create these chances and just miss that final touch or that slotting away, it's almost more frustrating. I mean, because you can see the work that they're doing in possession and building up, and they're creating opportunities. It's just they got to finish them. So that's where you go back to last weekend with the goals. I mean, I'm taking goals any way I can get them right now.
Well, and guys, my thought on this is the expected points. That's what hits me. 9 expected points out of 15. That's 3 out of 5 wins. So to me, we've played well enough, at least analytically, statistically, according to the different models, to say we should have gotten 9 points, which is pretty substantial. And guys, I want to go a step further because there's been a lot of conversation in recent weeks with the slow start to the season about the comparison between Yoann Damet and our former head coach, Olaf Melberg. And so I deep dove the numbers, guys. If you're watching our YouTube, we're going to throw them up side by side, as specifically talking about the offense. They are even on goals for the first 5. Olaf's team scored 4. Damet's boys have scored 4. The differences, to me, jump out at you at 2 things. It's the expected goal differences, and it's the quality of chances that they've got. So the expected goals under Damet, 2 full goals higher. The goals minus XG is worse. Damet's guys have not been as good finishing. They've been 2 goals worse in terms of finishing compared to their expected goals at a minus 3.58 to 1.52 in the negative under Olaf Melberg. But the biggest one for me, guys, in the world of XG that we talk about, looking at the quality of chances we've taken, it's not just the quantity. We've got to talk quality. And while both teams have produced the same amount of great shots through 5 games, it's the difference in good and average. You're looking at 11 good shots XG-wise compared to just 5 for Melberg. Tom?
Kayla in the chat saying there is no damn comparison, and I'm with you on that because I still have the scars from watching Olaf Melberg ball in 2025 and just being painfully bored at how we looked and how unenthused we look and just how vanilla we looked. Cole, are you not entertained by Damet ball?
And that's exactly what I was going to say. I love looking at the numbers because I think, as they say, numbers never lie. You're going to get a clear picture of how things are. But, if you want to put your fan hat on and just go by the eye test or the vibes that you're getting, and I think we hear it from the players too, and the pressers, I think that they are a little more bought in, and I think it shows in between the lines.
Yeah, and Dark Humor Magic on YouTube just said it best right there as well. Olaf's focus was on defense. Damet's focus is on the complete team. And Jeremy, you see the structure, you see it working, how it really is. The team looks like a unit out there, and it's reflective in those numbers you're showing.
Yeah, and I'll give you that they're different systems, but I think the reason you can compare them is they were founded on a three in the back structure. They both started with a three in the back core, wing back play. The difference is, in my straight up opinion and just blunt honesty, Melberg didn't have a damn clue what to do in the offensive third. Damet has ideas. Yeah. Damet has a plan. Melberg prayed for miracles. And I think that's why you see the difference in XG or goals minus XG. There's a plan under Damet. Melberg just played hoof it to Klaus and pray for a miracle.
Ugh, yeah, and that is why Damet's our coach, and I have Olaf Melberg's shower shoes. Okay, that's that's the difference right there, folks. These are literally Olaf Melberg's, by the way.
But real quick, I just want to look at the defensive numbers too. So because I don't want to just focus on one side of the ball. We got to talk where we are defensively. Just real quickly, going to fly through them. We are at the MLS average for goals against at 7. Our XG against is 2 goals lower or 2.5 than the league average. Expected points against 2 points below the league average. So again, we are at or better, Tom, like you pointed out with the offensive numbers, at or below the league average, which to me says we're doing good work on both sides of the ball.
Definitely, absolutely. And I want to ask you guys something though. One of the things that has kind of surprised me is how well the back three has done overall. And that means that you have Yasiel Orozco holding it down as our right center back and Dante Polvara as our starting left center back. And I made this question a couple weeks ago, and I still think it's valid. Yasiel Orozco has been our best back three defender this season. So I want to ask you guys, and Jeremy, I'll start with you. Actually, no, Cole, I'll start with you. What's the bigger surprise to you? That Yasiel Orozco is owning it at his right center back spot, or that Dante Polvara is still starting and appears to be kind of getting this whole center back business down?
I think it's Orozco. I mean, I've seen some people say it online. Again, it's not quite an original take, but I think he's been, maybe besides Hartel, the best player we've had this season. I mean, he is someone that I think at the beginning of the year, especially with both the falls coming in, you think, okay, well, maybe he'll be a depth piece or a rotation guy. He'll get some minutes in the cup games. But, I mean, he's been incredible. And at this point, if he's playing like this for an extended amount of time, I don't know if you can take him out of that starting role. I mean, he's been great.
So I think the question's a great one in and of itself, Tom, because you've got a guy who had never played center back before against a guy who really was painted into a corner, and I don't think we frankly expected either of them to be holding it down, and they are. I mean, just looking at some real quick numbers for Orozco, he's in the top 25% of all defenders in MLS right now in defensive contributions and tackles. Here's the one that jumps out at me, though, and I know the number of interceptions is only 12, but that 12 puts him within the top, the top 6% of center backs, according to FOTMob. So, like you just said, Cole, I don't know how you take him out with the way he's playing right now.
Well, and it's fair to say, Jeremy, that if we take Orozco out for Mbake Fall at this point, we riot. And that leads us into City 2 because we have to talk about a few things in this game, and we're going to blow through those real quick, but I want to spend some extended time on one player in particular. So City 2, LAFC 2 ends up being a 2-2 draw that City 2 wins on PKs. The starting lineup is as much of a story as anything in this game. Ben Lunt is in goal. You have a back three of Falou Fall, Lucas McNaughton, and Mbake Fall. Wow. Middle four of Jerome Barclay, who I thought had a really good game, Miggy, Wagner, and Lynch. So, a lot of your City 2 regulars there. And then a front three of Sangbin, McSorley, and Joyner. So this was a game where, and I'm going to go through just some quick thoughts on what I thought of the big names that were in this game. And I'm saving one for last. Jeremy, I can already feel you ready to like pounce on this guy right here. But Ben Luntz got the start, played fine, got a little bit played on the first LAFC goal in the second half as, player ran around him, but he made some big stops. He was fine. McNaughton, one thing that Chris Gebhardt's talked about is that if you're not noticing your center back, he's doing fine. I didn't notice McNaughton. He was fine. Falou Fall, I thought he was encouraging. He looked solid. Obviously needs to work his way back to fitness because he only played 45, but I'm ready for Falou Fall in the starting lineup soon, assuming he's fit. Miggy Perez had a good game, good passing, created some chances. Makai Joyner got 2 yellow cards, was sent home early and off to the U.S. Youth National Team camp early. But he scored the first goal, crashing the net. Ref had a bad day. We're not going to go there because I'm in a good mood. Brendan McScorley, case of Betcheritis before the tying goal. Not a good day at the office. 5 shots on target. Seemed to lose his confidence when he kept getting stuffed, but then he got the game-tying goal, but fluffed his PK, so it just wasn't a good day at the office. Case of warning, I was saying Ben looked fast, but no end product. He disappeared at times, which unfortunately is kind of his reputation at this point in MLS. Had a sitter after McScorley missed in the second minute on a break, and it just kind of felt like deer in the headlights. He froze and didn't bang in a rebound. Not a great game from Sangbin, honestly. But, Jeremy, I've saved the best for last, or I guess I should say the worst for last. Mbake Fall, ladies and gentlemen, unimpressive. Couldn't finish a shot point blank when it could have, at a key moment. Of course, he's not a striker, so that's not a big deal. The issue that I have with Mbake Fall, and I think, Jeremy, you're going to drop a track on him over this, his effort sucked. I thought he was nowhere to be found when Mahalik scored his second goal in the 65th minute. Should have been back in position. He tried to step in front of a pass. But when that failed, and I watched this back right before the show, Jeremy, he could not be bothered to get back and play defense. It looked like he was just taking a lovely little trot in Forest Park while the guy that he's supposed to be marking is getting his second goal in 4 games. If it already sounds like I'm getting angry over Mbake Fall, it is because I am seriously concerned about this signing at this point. And I didn't even watch the first City 2 game that he played, Jeremy. You did. You weren't impressed by him either, were you?
Nope, because what you're describing is very similar to what I seem to recall from the Minnesota United 2 game. He played one half of football in that game, and both of their chances in the first half came when Mbake was either out of position or not hustling back. Now, what I got told when I criticized him at that point was, it's his first game back in months. Give him time. Okay, fine. So fine. So he had that game. He's had weeks in training. He did make his debut as a sub with the first team in stoppage time after I think it was Dante started. No, it was Rose. I think it was for was it for Orozco because McNaughton replaced Polvara? So yes, it was for Orozco. He made a stoppage time sub. But my concern is there was a lot of hype over this kid. He took the MLS by storm with LAFC, went abroad to Barcelona. That's the hype, is that, it's Barcelona in La Liga. It's one of the premier clubs, one of the top 2. Well, guess what? He didn't crack the first team in his time at Barcelona. He was on the reserves, who, by the way, at last check, are still in the 4th division. So I am like you, Tom, for a signing that we were led to be hyped about and led to believe this guy was going to help revolutionize our back line at playing on the ball and really be a fit for this system. I'm afraid to put him in if we've been playing this well defensively because I feel it's going to make us more susceptible to goals.
No, exactly right. And, I know he came over with a reputation for not exactly being Javier Mascherano back there. But, I mean, you would have expected more from him at this point, and it's just, for me, it's not there. Remember, he wasn't playing for Barcelona. He was playing for Barca B, which at the time that he was playing for Barca B is in the 4th tier of the Spanish pyramid, which basically puts him somewhere between Union Omaha and Boffs, in terms terms of level of play in the United States, if you want to make a comparison. So it's not really impressive. And, Cole, as we kind of talked about, you watched a little bit of the City 2 game, but you've also watched, Orozco as well. Like, there's no way that you want to see Mbake in over Orozco at this point, do you?
Yeah, and I see it in the chat now. There's not really a need to play him. I mean, if we had the injuries that we were maybe dealing with in the last couple of years, or Orozco or Polvara, like they're not really finding their footing, then maybe you throw them out there. But at this point, there's not really a need to. I mean, I want to see him play. Which granted, I didn't see the first City 2 game he was in, but on Saturday, I was a little bummed he didn't come in when McNaughton got the sub. And so I'm excited to see him, but, there's just not really I'm not dying to throw him out there, especially in Bumgartle or Orozco's spot.
No, and I think it's very. I mean, you hit it on right there, Cole. That, when we need to make a sub late in the game, we call on McNaughton and not Mbake. And Mbake has been healthy and he's been ready to go, presumably. I think you have every right to be concerned about this signing. It is just, it's very concerning at this point. And again, Jeremy has watched him at City 2. I've watched him at City 2. I watched him in person, and it's not great. But I will say what is great is City 2. They are second in the Western Conference, tied on points, but behind on goal difference to Dinamo Dos, and up 2 points on Real Monarchs. So City 2 will actually be playing soccer this coming weekend, unlike the main roster brethrens. They'll head across the state. They'll stay in the state to take on Swope Park's Sporting Kansas 2, one of the worst teams in MLS Next Pro, a club that City 2 just clobbered at Energizer 4-0, and a club that we sadly won't play again until we go back to Swope Park in September. By the way, a fun fact about City 2's history with Sporting Kansas 2, 8 wins, 3 draws, and just 1 loss. And in the last 3 games, City 2 has outscored Kansas to 9-0. Or, since Jeremy, we are going into Spanish mode tonight, 9-0 over the last 3 games. See, I took a little Duolingo.
There we go. I love it. I love it, Tom. You know what I also love, Tom?
Yeah?
I also love knowing that we're going to get some academy football that we can watch soon. Because
Jeremy's for the kids. Jeremy's all about the kids.
I'm for the pipeline. That's what Damet or Corey Reyes said. It's time to get the pipeline going. We've heard about Eddie Niles. Well, the City Academy is going to play in the Generation Adidas Cup. It's coming up soon. The U15 and U16 sides will be down in Bradenton, Florida, which is where we were earlier at IMG Academy during the preseason, March 27th through April 4th. 88 teams total compete in the tournament. They'll compete in they'll play 6 60-minute matches comprised of 2 30-minute halves, 16 teams in advance to the single elimination championship bracket, which will include the 10 group winners and the 6 second place teams. The U15s and U16s will be in groups E and I respectively. We're going to toss on the screen the graphic that gives you a rundown of that schedule. Just real quickly highlighting that the U15s in Group E play March 27th against CF Montreal, March 28th against Valencia CF. That's a team from Spain, their academy. And then we've got March 29th, Real Salt Lake. The U16s are in Group I. They'll play Toronto FC on the 27th, Austin FC on the 28th, and then Busanai Park on the 29th. So that's coming up. We'll be able to watch some of those games on YouTube as well. We'll make sure to get that information out on socials as those come up. So,
and that includes the Busan iPark game, which is a very good Korean, South Korean program, and that game will be streamed on the MLS YouTube March 29th at 1:30. And if you want to watch the youngsters, that is definitely a good chance to do so. And speaking of youngsters that might be playing in that very game, St. Louis City Academy starlet Eddie Niles has been named to the Rising 11 of the Generation Adidas tournament. So this is a way to honor the 11 players to watch this weekend going forward, and Niles getting some dap from Generation Adidas and Adidas football. And they say on Niles, quote, Niles is among the top attacking prospects in the 2010 age group nationally, having earned several youth national team call-ups. He can play as a winger or through the middle, where he's been able to cause problems in a variety of ways. With MLS Next Pro experiences already, including this very season, he is one of the top players on a very good St. Louis City team, end quote. And of course, Niles recently was in the U16 camp for the U.S. Youth National Team a couple weeks ago, along with Kane Krause. So again, it's kind of really cool to see these youngsters getting highlighted, and especially Eddie Niles. Cole, I don't know how many episodes of Red Smoke Rising that you have been able to listen to right now, but I feel like Eddie Niles is becoming a bit of a drinking game on its own, just because I love me some Eddie Niles. Jake Henry, I see him in the chat. He loves him some Eddie Niles, and there's reason for that. He's very exciting. So how excited are you to see our academy starting to bear fruit?
It's incredible to see, because I feel like ever since, I mean, even back to when this club was first founded, and we started to get some of the ideals of what they were looking to do. It was very academy pipeline, like homegrowns. I mean, we've seen that some of them already on the first team now. So I mean, it's intriguing. It almost feels kind of like a hockey system, to where you got a big name prospect and you're like, all right, well, I'll see him in 5 years, or a couple of years, whatever it may be. But then there's also the Kavan Sullivans and some of those players who are making debuts at 15, 16. So I mean, it's exciting to see. It really is.
Yeah, it really is. And of course, that's not the only action that the Academy is going to be in this weekend. The U19s are also playing in the Dallas tournament this weekend as well. So even though the big roster is taking a little bit of a break because of the international break, the youth and the City 2 will stay in action. And of course, again, just want to remind you that coming up next Tuesday on Red Smoke Rising, there will not be a Red Smoke Rising. We are taking a bye week ourselves. Jeremy's going to work on some shorts content for you. I'll have a recap of the City 2 as well. So check YouTube page. We'll post those on YouTube in short form content, also on Insta, as well as our Blue Sky and X as well. So make sure to follow us at Red Smoke Rising on all of our platforms. And speaking of following, Cole Sutton, Inside City Limits, thank you so much for joining us this episode. And tell us, where can we find you, and where can we find Inside City Limits?
Yeah, first of all, thank you guys again for having me. It's been awesome. So right now we are solely audio. We're working towards the video aspect here. But we are, I mean, anywhere you get your pods, Spotify, Apple, I think we're even on Amazon Music and iHeart. We're on just about any audio platform. And so I appreciate the availability here, the little quick plug. But yeah, go check us out. I mean, it's myself. A couple of them have been in the chat, Mike, Jack, and Trevor. We're friends from high school who started out as just, like everybody else, fans. And we were like, hey, we talk about this every weekend. We get together to watch the matches. Why don't we just record it? And we've gone from there.
Well, you find your people. I mean, I met Jeremy a couple years ago, and we are talking about soccer like old friends. Yep. So it's just, it's awesome. And how often can they, how long do you?
Once a week. We did, try to do a preview recap last season, and our schedules were just a little hectic. So we're usually once a week. We're mainly focusing on, game recaps. We'll kind of touch like a preview. We did a very brief NYCFC preview. But yeah, once a week, usually on Mondays. If we have maybe a late, like that LAFC 9:30 kick, we might record Sunday, release Sunday. But yeah, usually Mondays-ish.
Gotcha. Well, look forward to that. I noticed, Jeremy, Monday is a very popular day for podcasts, because isn't that when South End Supporters also comes out?
They normally I think they record on Mondays, but
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so and they got swole Eric Cole, and then we got not quite as swole Cole Sutton. So we doing the market on Coles here on Red Smoke Rising. But again, and hopefully you get that video stream going, Cole, because all the cool kids are doing video nowadays. We might be helping City SC Report out with their video.
Yeah,
coming
love
up
to
soon.
hear it.
Yep, it's the new wave. It's the new wave. And speaking of City SC Report, Steve Rusnak will be our guest coming up on April 7th after the NYCFC game. I'll still be on. Jeremy will be on. Jake will be on. But I will be going to NYCFC as an away fan. So I'll be here to talk about that experience, talk about the first game back from the break, and whatever else is going on with St. Louis City. And of course, if you're watching the YouTube stream, stick around for the final third. We asked you a couple questions at the beginning of the show. Number one, what are you going to be doing without St. Louis City soccer in your life this coming weekend? And number two, wrestling moves. What wrestling moves did you practice on poor victims when you were growing up? Because we all. I mean, Cole targeted his counselor before. I'm
so excited for the wrestling talk.
Yeah, and Jeremy's ready to make a run in here.
So I don't know about that, but what I will say, Tom, is there's one other little bit of tidbit that I want to make shout of. I know the work is done, but just for anyone who's watching the calendar, the transfer deadline, March 27th. So City's not doing anything. I'm just going to say that now. Don't go watching for moves. City's probably long done in terms of this window. I know Orlando just announced Griezmann today, but the MLS transfer window closes the 27th officially.
So what you're saying is we're not signing Mo Salah.
I don't even think it'd be next window if we somehow signed Mo Salah.
Yeah, we're gonna need
you Liverpool fans can dream.
Yeah, we're gonna need to sell a lot more Yeti cups to make that happen. So many, and use turf, after they pull it, after this weekend. But anyway, that is gonna do it for the podcast portion of Red Smoke Rising. I am your soccer zombie, Tom Franklin.
I'm your capo, Jeremy Clements.
And I'm not as swole, but maybe Cole.
Not even confirmed a Cole. Maybe a Cole.
Not even confirmed.
Okay. We're gonna need to investigate that. But
we'll look into it.
But this has been another episode of Red Smoke Rising. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, always keep moving forward. All right, guys. Deep breath time. Exhale. Roll your shoulders around a little bit. The business portion of the show is now over. Some people, some other pods would call this the wind down, although I don't think that podcast calls it the wind down anymore. I think they've changed the name. But that's okay, because we have the final third. And that is our chance to talk to you in the chats and also talk about things that we wouldn't cover on the podcast, like what do we want to cover first? Do we want to cover what we're going to be doing without soccer this weekend, or does our wrestling tag team of Jeremy Clements and Cole Sutton want to go into wrestling talk?
Tom, I don't know. Tom, you're a wrestling guy too. Don't act like you're not. Come on, we got a triple threat in this place. But
we're trios. We're going for the AEW trios title after this.
Look, at this point, all we know is that Jake Henry is forming a tag team with Selmir Pedro somewhere. That's what we know. Okay,
there's your Pedro reference.
There you go. There it is. That's what's happening right now. That's why he's not here tonight. He's off. Now the question is, which of us is the original and which of us is the new El Grande Americano?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, you're the one that first dropped the Spanish language on us, Jeremy. So I would say you're Gable. I meant the original. I'll be Ludwig. I meant the one that's actually liked.
Fair enough. But so Cole, the question I had for you since we're in the ring at this point is, he referenced you as a Stone Cold earlier. So if there was a Cole Sutton 316, what does that say? Is my question for you.
Ooh, that is a good question. And you would think, because you mentioned it beforehand, that I would have thought about my answer, but that would be incorrect. I would say that Sutton 316 says, and again, I'm going back to my pessimism, don't get your hopes up. It's not very not a very positive outlook, but don't get your hopes up. I've been the pessimistic fan my whole life. I would rather be wrong and be like, oh, it's a nice surprise. The team's doing well. Then get my hopes up and have my heart shattered. So that's just been never give up or never.
Okay.
That's the opposite of what
So
I'm saying.
okay. So then are you like Jake Henry, who has yet to predict the City win this season?
Yeah. I believe so. I predicted a draw last week, and
So did
that was
Jake.
positive for me. Yeah.
By the way, in the chat, Jake Henry is saying that he is going to form a Pedro revolution. So I'm expecting. So if me, Jeremy, and Cole are going for the AEW trios titles, we're going to have to eventually challenge the team of Jake Henry, Selmir Pedro, and Nasruddin Valentic, the Eastern European bloc. Yeah. Good luck with. And actually, you know what? They might have Alan from Boffs be their manager.
There you go.
He's going to be their advocate. They're Paul Heyman.
Do you
The
think
mouthpiece.
Do you think Olaf Melberg would even be a good manager in wrestling?
Oh God. No. Olaf Melberg is he would be like the Mr. Hughes of wrestling, where he's that big, intimidating guy that doesn't really do much, except just kind of look intimidating.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Jake, or not Jake, you're not Jake, you're Cole. So Cole, no, my brain went to thinking about Jake for a second, but no, Cole, I know we're talking wrestling. I do have one other question for you. I've tried to do this with everybody that we've had on as a guest, and I just remembered. Do you have a go-to food at Energizer Park? I know you've done the media thing where they treat us right and treat us well with some good food up there, but
Yeah, they do.
But do you, if you're there as a fan, because I'm going to tell you that I might just have a new go-to after this weekend, but I'll let you go first.
I think it's the same one, Jeremy, but go ahead, Cole.
There's a lot of options to choose from. I've really loved the pulled pork nachos. I've had those there. They were great. I don't think it's Pie Guy anymore over there behind the supporters section, but the pizza slices from there, I believe when it was Pie Guy, they had the little hot honey. That was incredible. Some beef empanadas I've had there. If you're going to make me pick, I'd probably do the pulled pork nachos. But I mean, honestly, you can't go wrong anywhere in that stadium.
Yeah. Okay.
No, and Jeremy, I think we're going to be simpatico on these because this is my first chance to answer this. But Biscuit Town. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, if you've not had Biscuit Town, you are missing out on something great in your life, quite frankly, especially if you've not had the banana thing. And let me tell you something about the banana thing. There may be a day someday where I am stranded on a desert island, and there is going to be one food that I might be able to get airdropped into me. At this point, Jeremy, it might be the banana thing from Biscuit Town. No joke.
That's fair. And just for those who don't know, that is the actual name of the dish. It is literally called the banana thing. I just want to make sure that people didn't think you were doing that as a joke. But no. So Tom, I love Biscuit Town. Their breakfast sandwich was fire. This weekend, you talked earlier during the show about me having like a religious experience. That was me when I sunk my teeth into those pork belly burnt ends this weekend. I wanted more. Oh,
that's right. You had those in the pregame, didn't you?
I had those pregame, and that might be the single best bite of food I've had in that stadium from Beast Barbecue.
Really?
Oh my! They were tender. They were flavorful. They were juicy. But Tom, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in you right now because when you just did your introduction of ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You didn't go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Red Smoke Rising proudly brings to you its foodie champion of the world, Tom Franklin. You didn't go old school road dog on me.
No, I was saving it for you.
Oh, I'm not. It's fine. I'll humiliate myself. But come on, man. Come
We got
on. You got to do it.
We got
Okay.
More creative next time, but come on.
Let me go into road dog mold here. So I'm just imagining myself with dreadlocks, wearing a cutoff DX shirts. I've got a mic in my hand. I've got a guy named Mr. Ass standing next to me. I can't see anyone in the crowd because everyone has a sign, including their mother.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Red Smoke Rising proudly brings to you the Energizer Park food champion of the world, Jeremy Clements, and his partner, the badass Cole Sutton.
There we go. All right.
That just fired up.
Rip your speakers.
We'll figure it out. No, I've got to say, you've got the announcer voice. I've got the capo voice. That's how this works.
That's fair. That's
fair.
I
love that the chat is getting invested here. Jake Nervinsky, best pro wrestler.
So yes, the question it was I believe Chris dropping into the chat. What current or former City player would make the best pro wrestler? And so this is a good one, because I feel we've had some really, really good candidates over the years. I think, who would I actually go with? You know who I think would probably be the best pro wrestler, and this is gonna be weird. I'm thinking Indiana Vasilev, and here's why. Here's why. He is a multi-talented player in that he's a jack of all trades. So he's not a technical. He wouldn't be a technical wrestler. He wouldn't be a brawler. He wouldn't be a high flyer. He'd probably be a hybrid of all three. But he has leading company man written all over him, because the dude can cut a promo. He's great on the stick. He's got the marketable face going on. He's got charisma. And again, he is a well-rounded guy. So I would say that would be my pick. Maybe not the first pick of a lot of people. Jake Henry agrees with me in the chat, though. Thank you very much. Actually, Sam Adeniran was one that I was thinking about.
That was mine. That was going to be mine.
Well,
okay. Why Sam?
Well, and I think it depends on what you think of when you think of a pro wrestler. Are you thinking of, a Sami Zayn, quick, athletic, or are you thinking more of, like Vince McMahon style booking, where you just want the big physical presence? So I was thinking, if you want a beast incarnate, look no further than Big Sam Adeniran. I mean, you already have the name right there, Big Sam. I mean, that's you're golden.
The hesitancy I have with Sam, though, is that one of the biggest problems I had when he was a player was that he never used his size effectively, meaning that he was SAWFT.
Soft. That's brilliant.
Jeremy,
you can't teach that. No. Anyway.
Well, actually, you know what? Sam would be more like a Big Cass, probably.
Right. Big. That's yeah. So I mean, so you mentioned Sam. I mean, if we're talking current guys, if you want a powerhouse,
Kayla's got a good one though. Tim Parker. I think he would be like the Fit Finley of pro wrestling, like in that you don't want to face him.
Could you go like if current roster, like if you're looking size wise, do you toss like a guy like, I mean, Sergio Cordova? I mean, he's a big guy. He's got some power to him. Granted he wasn't the most agile this weekend, but
well, yeah, he kind of had a Three Stooges moment, when he forced a turnover and ended up. Whoop, 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 whoop,
but I mean, that it's akin to the great Khali. He wasn't graceful in the ring, but he was powerful and he could stomp a hole in someone's ass. But
actually, I kind of look at Sergio more like a Titus O'Neil.
Okay, I could see that.
Big, physical, imposing, likes to fall down on his face. I mean, that's
just say, don't fall through the ring.
But you know what? I'm gonna go a different direction. I'm gonna go, and that maybe not best, but maybe entertaining for me in the land of the cruiserweights. Let's throw Celio in the ring as a cruiserweight. He could be a high flyer.
He could.
I mean, I'm thinking over here, little Viva la Raza, Eddie Guerrero kind of stuff. I know it's Brazilian and not Mexican, but come on.
And we all know that Celio would be the biggest white meat baby face, in our wrestling federation by none. He would sell the most merch. He would be, he would be a main eventer, definitely. Like maybe he's not the best in the ring, but everyone loves him.
So, okay, better if all right. I know we got to get back to the original question that started everything, which was what are we doing during the off week? We're apparently talking wrestling, but anyway, on a soccer podcast.
I will also say just some comments in the chat. I'm seeing a lot of Klaus mentioned as a good wrestler. Joe Aquini from the ground. That's a good one. I mean, good. Maybe he'd be like the Bret Hart, where he's like a ground technician. Berkey could be interesting. Berkey would be. I don't know about that one actually. He seems too nice.
He's intimidating as hell, though. I'll tell you that.
And I agree with Chris Gebhardt. Simon Betcher would be a great heel.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was going to say. Yep.
All right. So if you're going to have a heel, who's the better heel manager, Melberg or Carnell?
Carnell, bar none. Hands down, no debate. Bradley Carnell.
Okay.
All day. Olaf, I get Olaf has the kind of steely gaze, and he had his hood up at Colorado Rapids where he looked like Darth Vader. By the way, Fet Lord Colton saying Yarrow because he really can't play soccer. Hey, we all remember he couldn't make the grade at Boffs. Allen refused to loan him in.
That's true.
And I remember, I think Jerry said something earlier. Has Yarrow even been seen, around the campus? Like, he surely hasn't been seen playing soccer for City or City 2. So, maybe he's, working out in Killer Kowalski's training camp right now, working on that pro wrestling career for all we know.
Yeah, he could be at the Road School of Wrestling in St. Louis. I'm sure there is one.
Oh,
or
there's
Harley
plenty.
Race, not Rhodes, Harley Race.
Yeah, there's Team Ambition, which is they train a lot of local wrestlers. Davey Richards used to run that camp, and then Davey Richards did some bad things. But anyway, this isn't a pro wrestling chat. But anyway, back to the original question, Jeremy. Let's get this kind of back on the road. So we want wrong answers only. You're used to St. Louis City soccer being back. We've gotten to a rhythm with our show, and also which is the fact that we can count on soccer on the weekends. What are you doing next weekend? And we want to know wrong answers only. So we asked this at the beginning, guys. Have you come up with your wrong answers yet?
If we're talking wrong answers, let me think on this.
I think. Actually, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be enrolling in pro wrestling camp, and I'm going to be in a tag team with Josh Yarrow.
I would. Okay, if we're gonna go super wrong answers just for the sake of it being wrong, I will. I'll go figure out how to become a scout for David Lee and SKC because they still need players on their roster.
Well, JT Kirsting in the chat saying he's going to join the Sporting Kansas fan club. So congratulations, JT Kirsting, a member of Forest Park Rangers, by the way, but also he is going to be a member of the Cauldron as well. So Forest Park Rangers, we are going to start taking over the territory formerly known as Swope Park Rangers. So we can just have, one big Rangers happy family.
And I was in the same boat. I feel like I was like, all right, I have my answer. It was going to be, I'm going to go to the furniture mart and be a sporting supporter. And then I looked, and they don't even play this week either. So that was my big, great answer that went out the window very quickly.
I think Nebraska Furniture Mart has a great sale on ottomans this weekend. Maybe you should check that out.
I am there.
I'll go pick up a part-time job there. Maybe, who knows?
I think
for
if
the
you
free
buy
parking.
That's right.
I think if you buy an ottoman at Nebraska Furniture Mart, you get a Sporting KC ticket for free.
They're giving them out.
Well, but
because no one's showing up for those games.
Yeah. Have they even named their stadium yet?
No, I think what are they even calling it?
Just soccer park. I don't know, Kansas Sporting Park or something maybe. I don't know. It's not original.
The Palace, formerly known as Children's Mercy.
It's probably Brian in the chat. Don't drive your car into a building. That's a bad idea.
Stop that.
If you drive your car into the building, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah.
By the way, apparently it is called Sporting Park. It literally it's just called Sporting Park because I'm a sporting. Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds like the generic stadiums in like EAFC or FIFA. It's just Sporting Park.
Jeremy?
I thought of a better idea for what I'm gonna do during the break, Tom.
What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna go find Josh Yarrow.
That should be a winner.
And then I'm gonna sign him to a contract extension.
No.
You said it was wrong answers only.
Wrong answers.
Well, that is the wrong answer because that's how you end up in the Navy.
And then I'm gonna leave the city. I'm just gonna leave. I'm gonna leave.
Yeah, you're gonna go join Hackworth in the Navy.
You know what? No. If it's wrong answers, then I won't have to leave. They'll just hire me. Diego will give me a job. Because I'll officially know more than him. I mean, wait, what? Oops. What I told you? It's all right.
Fet Lord Colton is going to go to Liverpool to pick up Mo Salah to bring him to St. Louis.
But that's not wrong in
nice.
everybody's opinion, though. A lot of people would like that.
I would like that,
A
but it's not
little-
going to happen, which makes it a wrong answer.
A little personal escort straight to St. Louis.
I mean, I am the Liverpool supporter amongst us. So if there's someone that's gonna, that needs to volunteer as tribute to go to Liverpool, I'll do it for the team. It's fine. I'll go to Anfield. Shucks, darn it. Damn. Yeah.
You're so mad.
Actually, I think your co-host Cole Mike has the idea where to find Yarrow, because remember, Yarrow's a big locker room guy. So he's probably in the locker room somewhere.
Yeah.
In fact, he might be.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, that may be how he breaks into the Boff's locker room. Not as a player, but maybe as a janitor. After to clean up after at Lindenwood after Boff's trashed the locker room after the game. You never know.
Everybody's gotta find their lane. Maybe that's his lane.
Well, and Cole, you're a Tottenham fan, so your lane might be the championship next year.
I don't know if it's might. I think at this point it probably is, which is going to be interesting.
Look, the good thing is at least you don't have to watch Spurs lose again this weekend.
Yeah, that is very true.
Thing.
It's a day off. Yeah.
And look, hey, I can't look. I'm a United fan, okay? I thought we ran serious risk of getting relegated last year, so I won't talk too much stuff. You guys took a trophy from us, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that trophy, we'd be in an even worse headspace. That trophy's the only thing I'm clinging to right now.
That's fair.
Okay, so Cole, let me ask you this, because Mike notes that Cole's a big championship guy. If he's not now, he will be. But better road. You're a Spurs fan. You have your choice of one of these following road trips next year in 2026-27. You can go to Lincoln. You can go to Cardiff. You can go to Bolton, Bradford City, Stockport County, or Stevenage. Because that one of those teams, actually 3 of those teams, might be the Spurs' opponents next year. Fancy away day at Stevenage.
I've heard glowing, raving reviews of Cardiff, so maybe we'll book the flight and go see the Spurs there.
Yeah, it's Wrexham on Temu. Well, I can't get a ticket to the Wrexham game, so I ended up in Cardiff City. Because Wrexham's a hard ticket, to be fair. Just ask Jerry Hayes. She's a big Wrexham supporter, and I'm sure she's tried.
Cole, you know what? I think I have another idea for the weekend. You and Chastity Tactics can form a support group for each other. I believe he's a Spurs fan too.
We need to make. It's gonna have to be like AA. We need to come together as a group. We're gonna meet once a month and just hash everything out. It'll be a therapy session.
That's healthy. That's a good idea.
Very healthy, actually.
So, Tom, you mentioned a minute ago, or I think a few different times, either during the show or during the final third, Boffs.
Yeah, Boffs.
Let's talk about Boffs, because we didn't get a chance to talk about it during the show. Give us the rundown, because you did a really great video on the Open Cup match.
Well, we were trying to, work in more Bosnian content on this show as we can. We already talked about Selmer Pedro and his Rudin Valentic earlier. But, of course, our friend Alan Bradark is the owner of Boffs. They just played in the Open Cup last week. It was a great experience, just like being at the St. Louis Blues game tonight, because Kayla in the chat reports that the Blues are up 2-0. So continuing to inch further away from that first overall pick. But getting back to the Open Cup, no, it was at Lindenwood last Wednesday, and it was an amazing turnout. It was probably a little over 1,000 people there, honestly. I believe Brian Simpson guesstimated about 1,500. We never got like an official count per se, but there were fans it was a good mix. It was a mix of longtime St. Louis soccer supporters along with young kids that were there, maybe checking out a soccer game, for the first time, or checking out soccer at that level, or, there was a lot of fans that, may have been like older soccer fans that maybe not as into St. Louis City, that were checking out soccer at that level again. But it was a really good turnout. Lindenwood, fantastic venue. If you have ever seen a football game there, that's where Lindenwood football plays at Hunter Stadium. It's a really nice stadium. It's a nice bowl. I wish it was, just a little more accessible for teams, per se, because you could put a lower league soccer team there and it would be an absolute draw. But it was a great experience. JT Kirsting in the chat, and actually also Darkroom Magic saying that I did a great job. They're talking about the fact that Alan, literally, so Alan, the day before, because I was there to vlog the game, as I tend to do at soccer at that level. And Alan is like, hey, we need someone to announce the starting lineup and do our pregame announcements. And I'm like, and he's like, you just come in for the pregame announcements, it'll be fine. So I'm Jeremy, as you know, you've hung out with me at soccer games at Energizer Park. I love the pregame as much as the game itself. At games, it's a chance to meet with friends. It's a chance to hang out. And I was hanging out with Stu Holtgren and Brian Simpson and those guys as they were putting together those Open Cup banners. Lost a little bit of track of time. So I'm literally recording my bits for the vlog, and then I'm literally as I'm recording those bits, I'm trying to get to the press box, and I walk into the press box, and 1 minute later, I'm going from walking into the press box to announcing lineups. Because unfortunately, time got away from me a little bit. But no, I got to announce the lineups for both teams. I do a little public address work on the side, so it's nothing new that I haven't done before. But to have that stage was fun, and to be there for that experience was so much fun. I will also say the other cool thing, and again, I'm going to be really shameless about this. So much Forest Park Rangers on display at this game. So we, of course, Forest Park, and thank you, Jeremy. I wasn't on the show last week, but I heard you're, giving us a little bit of dap, for Forest Park Rangers. And so we had just announced our branding, literally the Friday before. We had made our big brand launch, our big logo launch. So Forest Park Rangers, we're going to be the newest team in the Midwest Premier League in 2027. Entirely fan-owned, 501c3. We've already raised over 100 pounds of used soccer equipment to donate to the Boys and Girls Club already. That's just one of the things that we're going to be doing, as a club and an organization going forward. But the Buffs game was our first chance to give out scarves outside of our brand launch to our supporters. We made it kind of a meetup spot for our supporters. And so a lot of them hung out with Joe and Christine, our director of marketing and our chairwoman, out in the parking lot. And let me tell you guys something. You see the Forest Park Rangers scarf hanging on my wall right behind me there. And you see the Boff scarf a couple spots over, with Atar forming the sandwich in the middle. There were as many Boff scarves as there was Forest Park Rangers scarves. It probably got on TV at some point. And I want to say this as well. I want to thank Alan, because not for just giving me the access that I had to do the game, but also he encouraged me in the pregame announcements, mention Forest Park Rangers. Do a drop for Forest Park Rangers, because we're all kind of in the same boat in that we want to see local soccer grow in St. Louis, and it's soccer at that level in St. Louis. And Alan gets it. He wants the soccer at this level to grow. The folks from ATAR, were there as well. The owner, the board, the head coach, Tim Mosby, was there as well. And they were all there. For one, they loaned a player to Boffs to play in the Open Cup, Jermaine Mentour. But it was also just because they wanted to support their fellow St. Louis club. And I see there's someone, I think, from Greece that is in the chat. Could never happen in Greece, probably. You can't. I can't see an Olympiakos fan, for instance, going to a rival Greek club and doing that kind of support. But that's kind of how we roll in America, because we're a little bit behind on that, compared to the rest of the world. So it was a great opportunity for lower league soccer to have its big stage, and I think a lot of the folks in the chat were there as well, and it was just a good time. It was a good time. Allen was a great sport, and I will say, even though the result was bad because it was 8-0, Omaha just absolutely wiped the floor with Boffs. The starting goalkeeper for Boffs, Liam Gibbs, he made a save when it was 7-0 that is now up for votes on the best save of round 1 of the U.S. Open Cup. And I thought that was a nice gesture by the U.S. Soccer Federation because it was otherwise a pretty dark day on the field for Boffs.
Yeah.
But also, of course, did you also see Allen when he made the announcement? He said that he wanted to credit. I'm sure Liam will be crediting his players for playing terribly in front of him, so that he can make that save.
Yeah. I saw that, which was I thought that was pretty funny. I think you shared that with me on one of our Discord chats. No, it was great to see the support for the Open Cup. I talked to Stu a little bit about it on Saturday before the game when we were doing load in. It was really cool.
I got him on camera.
So I was tempted to make the joke that you had him on camera more than he's been on camera on his own podcast, but I was trying to play nice. Because I'm not trying to start another pod war, but no.
No, there are no pod wars. What are you talking about?
But no.
Except ball watching when they go live on Tuesdays like we do. But anyway.
I'm not. Top rope, Tom, from the top rope.
Hey, you know what? I mean, again, Indiana Vassilev, all-rounder, he can hit those top rope moves,
That's true. Cole, one more time. I know we're wrapping up. We're going to get out of here in just a few, but I want to one more time give you a chance to plug your podcast, your buddies, the great work you guys do on Inside City Limits.
And I will certainly take the opportunity. But one last thing on the Boffs match.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that you guys had interviewed Cole Gerstenberger.
Yes.
He and Jack Schrum on that team.
Mm-hmm.
Cole went to Farmington High School, where I'm from.
Yes, he did.
Him and Jack are good friends with my cousin Chad, so I knew them. So it was awesome to see one of them had made it onto the show. I just wanted to shout them out. We were talking about the match and the USOC. I mean, it was awesome to see.
By the way, my dad lives in Bonne Terre, so St. Francis County represent.
St. Francis County represent. I'll be expecting that nickname at some point, but maybe you'll have some time to work on that. But yeah, I do appreciate the opportunity to plug, fellas. Myself, Mike, and Jack, they're actually twin brothers. So we have a set of twins on the pod. You'll see that if we ever go to video. And then myself and Trevor, me and Trevor played soccer together in high school. We've known each other a long time. We are all, very passionate about the team that we cover, we love. And so, again, like I said earlier, we're already talking about this for hours on end. We might as well record it and see what happens. And we're once a week, ICL Pod on Twitter, at Sutton City on Twitter. As of right now, just Spotify and Apple Podcasts, but we're got some things in the works coming soon.
It sounds great, and I love seeing more content creators, getting off the ground, and I'll definitely be checking you guys out, and hopefully everyone in the chat checks you guys out as well, inside City Limits. But he just brought up something, Jeremy.
What's that?
We've had Eric Cole. We've had Cole Gerstenberger, and now we've had Cole Sutton.
Yep.
So do we need to change the name of our show to The Coal Mine?
Maybe. I mean, no. You're. It's funny, dude. I swear our minds are like in linked because that.
You're my baby brother from another mother.
My brain was like, I was sitting here trying to think. I'm like, okay, is this 3 out of the last 5 we've had some shape form of coal on in the show? Yeah. I mean, we're on a streak. And you know what? If we, I know we didn't get into it because it's weeks away, but if we can do something against NYCFC, we might be on a streak with City too.
We might be.
Who's on a winning streak or an unbeaten streak now, but Well, I guess I hate it's so weird. They call it they say you're still unbeaten, but they still say you win on penalties, even though it's a draw. It's
Yeah.
so
And
weird.
you know what? Even though we won on penalties, the Bet365 bets did not get counted as wins because of the silly way that Next Pro does things. Not that I'm bitter about that or anything, or how that game went for bettors. By the way, and again, bet responsibly. We're not encouraging betting or anything like that. But I got a little story time here that we had to cut out during the show just to end the show real quick. So something interesting happened on this weekend on Bet365. So Bet365 is the only platform, and I think Jake Henry was the first to spot this. You can bet on MLS Next Pro games on Bet365, which sounds dangerous and it sounds like the Wild West, but it's also been exploitable. Oh, by the way, Fetlord Colton. By the way, we've mined another coal here. Good point there, Jeremy, in our private chat. But so anyway, Bet365. So on Saturday, I'm reminded that the lines are out for Sunday's game between City 2 and LAFC 2. The line is minus 167, which is a pretty good line for a City 2 team that's played very well this year. They're playing at home, and so I put a couple bucks on it. When I arrived at Energizer Park on Sunday, the line had moved to minus 800 because of that freakish lineup that we had run out there with both Falls and Sang Bin and Joyner and McScorley out there. Someone at Bet365 had a mini stroke when they saw that lineup, and I don't blame them, honestly. And so, it was. I think St. Louisans were hammering that, and very interestingly enough, so it was 1-0 at the half, and at that point, if you had cashed out your bet, you would have doubled your money at that point. None of us did that. When I say us, I mean me and Aaron Leak in the chat. We didn't do that. Start of the second half, all of a sudden, you're not allowed to cash out your bet early. They're saying it's a VAR review going on, which there's no VAR in MLS Next Pro. Well, 61st minute, LAFC 2 scores. 65th minute, LAFC 2 scores. 66th minute, you can cash out again. And you lose money by doing so. I'm not saying there was nothing shady or suspicious going on or anything like that, but,
so
be warned that these betting apps may not be the most honest.
What?
Shocking.
Who would have thought?
So, guys, I do have one last and just to keep it short in the honor of time, yes or no question. Is it a problem that the City 1.5 team didn't do more against LAFC 2? Yes or no?
Yes, because it was more so that McScorley couldn't score, Sang Bin couldn't score, and Bakke couldn't score on his golden chance. We couldn't finish. It was basically, Jeremy, like a City 1 game up until this past Saturday where we're knocking, no one's home.
Yep.
So, yes, I would say definitely disappointing.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think when because like someone like myself, I didn't watch the game live. When I saw that lineup, I was expecting a 2-3-0, maybe a 3-1, 4-1. Like I was thinking that wouldn't be an issue of if we were going to get a point or not. So I would say, while it's maybe not the sky is falling, obviously, it kind of raises an eyebrow.
Yeah. No, that's where I'm at, especially if you would expect those guys to be pushing for minutes with the first team. But.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Cool.
All right. I think that is going to do it for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. There are 79 of you watching right now, and if you haven't done so yet, please like and subscribe. It helps us out, helps the algorithm, and helps you know when we are online. I understand we had a little bit of a technical issue for our YouTube viewers starting out that I think it looks like it got resolved. So sorry about that. I think YouTube had a little bit of a freak out there. But we were glad that you were able to join us eventually. And I think by the time most of you guys rolled in, you didn't miss anything. So get some rest. It's almost 10 o'clock. We all got to work tomorrow. Well, most of us anyway, hopefully, maybe. And have a good night.